In this video, I will give my review of the Hermetica, so I will discuss my opinion on each chapter. Hi everybody, welcome back. You are watching Philosophy with Keriki. In today's episode, we are going to discuss a very important book, the Hermetica. So we will start with, what is the Hermetica? A forgotten spiritual classic. The Hermetica is a series of dialogues of ancient Egyptian and Greek wisdom texts that were rediscovered and translated in the late 15th century, but they are dated back to times of Egyptian gods and pharaohs. A collection of scripts that were dedicated to Thoth, the Egyptian god with the head of an ibis, who was also recognized in ancient Athens as their own god, Hermes. In the texts, Thoth is regarded as thrice great Hermes, or Hermes Trismegistus. This translates to thrice great. Thoth himself was said to be the man behind the wisdom in these texts. And from our records, Thoth was said to have venerated from Egypt in as early as 3000 BC, at least. He was also believed to be the creator of the pyramids. The Egyptians believed they had gained so much from him, and they worshipped him very highly. They gained much of their survival education from Thoth, and more from architecture, geometry, astronomy, medicine, even religion. He was believed to be a messenger for the great Osiris, god of the underworld, and brother and hubby to Isis. Bit of incest. Ancient people enjoyed incest. So he acted as a messenger for the great Osiris, watching the people of Earth and reporting back to him, in attempt to help him judge their fate and deliver human truth. The Hermetic texts have inspired so many of today's great minds since they have been re-established. The resurface of them could be incredible to today's generation, if only we would listen. It delves into the deep questions of philosophy and theology. It discusses within the texts the divine, enlightenment, the cosmos, mind, nature, alchemy, astrology, and even mysticism, with ancient lost knowledge and predictions that were seen as so important that they were cherished, even taken to the great library of Alexandria, and brought back into the modern age, in a time of an era that very much so fits the predictions, in a time they were said to be destined. Older than many religious texts, even the Quran and Christianity. And as proof that these texts came to us from a period of around Thoth and the great gods and the pharaohs, etc., most of them are written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Although when they were moved to Alexandria, they came to a risk of the invasion from the Romans. When the Romans invaded, they burned Alexandria's library and museum in attempts to erase history. It erased a large sum of today's history and knowledge. The library alone contained 500,000 scrolls of importance, from the greatest minds and the greatest happenings of all time. The Hermetic texts were again transported, this time located out of Alexandria for their protection. Thoth dedicated his knowledge to a cold generation. By destiny, he tells us how his scripts would resurface at a time without belief, when free will and life is controlled and consumed. In fact, anybody who's taken the time to read these texts would agree that they resurfaced at exactly the right time. In history, Egypt was great. The word alchemy itself comes from the term from Egypt. Chapter 1, the prophecies of Hermes. In this chapter, Hermes discusses the importance of spiritual-natured philosophy. He speaks of divine curiosity and foretells and predicts of a world that will have no belief, that shall be cold and colourless, a world without spiritual memory, with no idea where they came from. He orders these texts to be hidden and to resurface when they are supposed to. He says, I foresee that in times to come, clever intellectuals will mislead the minds of men, turning them away from pure philosophy. And Egypt is an image of the heavens, and the whole cosmos dwells here. In this sanctuary, but the gods will desert the earth and return to heaven, abandoning this land that was once home of spirituality. And then, nothing will remain of your religion but an empty tale which even your own children will not believe. Men will be weary of life and will cease seeing the universe as worthy of reverent wonder. Spirituality, the greatest of all blessings, will be threatened to extinction and believed to be a burden to be scorned. Egypt will be widowed. Every sacred voice will be silenced. Darkness will be preferred to light, and no eyes will raise to the heaven. The pure will be thought insane, and the impure will be honored as wise. The madman will be believed brave, and the wicked esteemed good. Knowledge of the immortal soul will be laughed at and denied. No reverent words of heaven will be heard or believed. He says, as the great God, which he calls Autumn, or Autumn, gave him this knowledge through a vision, that he is pretty much responsible to hold this knowledge and to share it with the world, as he can see humanity's impending doom from being greedy and abusing things and losing sight of our spiritual nature, losing connection to soul. He declares that it is sacred knowledge that he is destined to protect, being the first of men to attain all knowledge. Chapter 2, the initiation of Hermes. As I mentioned before, Thoth is Hermes. They believe to share the god with different formations. In this section of the Hermetica, Thoth discusses with us the cosmos, based on the vision he had when his mind was alert but his body was still and empty, as he says. His representation of the creation of Earth, which is given in the Hermetica, is kind of similar to the Big Bang Theory and also many other theories that have been given. And it is kind of complicated when you think of how he knew this knowledge. How did he become aware of certain elements that were thrown into the creation? And not only that, how was he so precise about what came first and what came next, and so on and so on? So we obviously need to delve into the fact that this obviously came from a very intelligent mind. I suggest reading all of the Hermetica, but this chapter was crazy in the best way. He says, "My senses were suspended in a mystic sleep, not a weary, full-fed drowsiness, but an alert and conscious emptiness. Released from my body, I flew with my thoughts, and while I soared, it seemed to me a vast and boundless being called my name. 'Hermes, what are you looking for?' He then speaks of his conversations with the Creator and being shown a vision of a fearful nature. The four elements came into being, combining to create the brood of living creatures. The fiery element was articulated as the constellations of the stars and the gods of the 7 heavenly bodies. This may refer to the 7 realms of heaven, or 7 god/goddess figures, or the holy hebdomades, the 7 stars that are called planets, revolving forever in celestial circles. He notes that the Creator, Atom, his God, had instructed him to carry this information to save mankind. Chapter 3, The Being of Atum. Here he describes the Creator, which he refers to as Atom. He does not describe Atom as a individual person, but rather the essence of everything and the one who creates everything. The many that is indeed one. The one in the many. And he says that Atom is known by thought alone, and that humankind is the only kind that bears the connection through thought to Atom, the divine creator, giving us constant access to divine intelligence. He does not deny that there are many gods and many goddesses, but he says that all things are generated from one initial source, who had one initial thought. The all and the one are identical. You think that things are many when you see them as separate, but when you see they all hang on the one and flow from the one, you will realize that they are all united. Everything has a source except this source itself, which springs from nothing. Atom is complete like the number 1, which remains itself, whether manipulated or divided, and yet it generates all numbers. He then speaks of human perception on reality. The things that the eye can see are mere phantoms and illusions. Only those things invisible to the eye are real. Mind cannot be enclosed because everything exists within the mind. Nothing is so quick and so powerful. Just look at your own experience and imagine yourself in any foreign land. and as quick as your intention, you will be there. Think of the ocean, and there you are. You have not moved as things move, but you have travelled nonetheless. Fly up into the heavens, you won't need wings. Nothing can obstruct you, not the burning heat of the sun or the swirling planets. Next chapter, contemplate creation. Here we are asked to think deeply about creation and how it came to be and its order. How such beauty needs a creator. The invisible may only be seen with thoughts, which are themselves invisible. If you can't see thoughts, do you expect to see autumn? Look with your mind, however, and he will appear to you. He then says that the only way to see the divine with mortal eyes is to see the invisible, which is possible by viewing him from everything. He is said to reside in everything. The way he describes it is that he is in everything, because he is the essence of the creator of everything. Just as DNA is passed down through everything, so is the essence of the creator. The living cosmos. Here he discusses how everything begins with life and light, with light being the primal source. And he discusses with us that everything is in essence immortal. As this is all so lessons, and this is all a thought of an immortal being. From its first foundations, there has never existed a single thing that is not alive. The soul is a part of the whole of the cosmos, and the body is only what we perceive. Mind and soul are manifestations of light and life. Everything moves by the power of soul. The body of the cosmos, within which all bodies are contained, is completely saturated with soul. The circle of time. Here he speaks of reincarnation, and we are shown the true nature of time and change. How the birth and death process is repeated, and how as one phase ends, another one always begins, in a repetitive manner with no beginning and no end. Time renews all things in the cosmos by the circling process of change, measured by the heavenly bodies, probably meaning planets, returning to their former positions as they revolve around the heavens. The present issues from the past, and the future from the present. Everything is made by one in this continuity. Time is like a circle, where all the points are linked, that you cannot say where it begins or where it ends, for all points proceed and follow each other forever. The past has departed and no longer is. The future has not arrived and is yet to be. Even the present does not last. So how can it be said to exist when it does not stay for even a moment? The gods. In this text, Thoth mentions the goddess known as Destiny, and the essence of transformation and growth, and the other gods, known in relation to the heavenly bodies, aka planets, 5 known planets, and the sun and moon, who are both ruled over by the goddess. And ultimately he also speaks of Ra and his divine connection to the sun. He says that Ra exists only in space and time, and exists to us only in the essence of light. Ra benefits not only from heaven, but from the hidden depths of the earth. Here we are shown that time is in essence change, with the increase and decrease of it, and change is measured by quality and quantity. The mind of the cosmos, created from fire and air, the 7 administrators who regulate destiny, the 5 visible planets, the sun and moon, whose orbits encompass the world of the senses. These celestial powers, known by Thoth alone, are called the gods, and they preside over the world. They are ruled over by the goddess Destiny, who transforms everything according to the law of natural growth, creating from the permanent, unchanging reality a permanently changing world. Like a skillful chariot driver, Ra has tied the cosmos to him, sending down energy from above and raising up matter from below. If there be such a thing as substance, not perceptible to the senses, the light of the sun must contain that substance. The hierarchy of creation. Here we are taught ancient Egyptian philosophy and how it is controlled by a higher power. Atom creates the cosmic mind. The cosmic mind creates the cosmos. The cosmos creates time, and time creates change. The essence of time is movement. The essence of change is life. Atom works through mind and soul. The cosmic mind works through immortality and duration. The cosmos works through turning and returning. Time works through increase and decrease. Change works through quality and quantity. Time is in the cosmos. Change is time. The cosmos is made up of thoughts. In the cosmic mind. The cosmic mind is an image of atom. The cosmos is an image of the cosmic mind. The sun is an image of the cosmos. Man is an image of the sun. It's important to mention that ancient hieroglyphs weren't known by everybody, only select people, including those of hierarchy in religion and also royalty class people. Only very, very select people would be taught to understand these sacred hieroglyphs, and they would be taught in very specific schools. The creation of humankind. Here we are told his version of how humans came to be. Atom asked Earth, heavenly God, in turn, what can you provide for humanity? The sun offered daily illumination, bringing joy and laughter for mortals and the universe. The moon promised sleep and silence, to shine by night. Saturn offered justice and necessity. Jupiter gave peace and Mars gave struggle. Venus preferred love and pleasure, and Mercury, associated with Hermes himself, and Thoth, offered them knowledge of truth. He then goes on to tell us of how he gave human beings vessels so that they could tend to the earth, as that was our duty to protect the earth, which, if you ask me, we don't do enough of. The birth of human culture. In this section, he speaks of how humankind began building its empires. He speaks of how we should not only enjoy divine power, but we should be tending to the earth around us, and how it is our duty as humans to tend to the surrounding earth, and how it would fail without our help. Thoth also mentions that the divine creator himself visits the earth from time to time in the form of a vessel, and he believed that this was the case with the great Osiris. Osiris and Isis were major deities in the Old Kingdom from 2686 to 2181 BC. There have also been many temples for them, and Osiris and Isis helped to shape the nation. Atum, the fabricator of the cosmos, graced the earth for a little time with our great father Osiris and the great goddess Isis, that they might give us the help that we so much needed. They brought humanity divine religion and stopped savagery of mutual slaughter. They consecrated, meaning make and declare, dedicate specifically for a religious purpose, temples, and insulated sacrificial offerings to the gods that were their ancestors. They gave gifts of food and shelter and taught men to swerve the decaying corpses of the dead. Isis learned this from the Book of the Dead, and Osiris was the first mummy. Having learned Atum's secret laws, they became lawgivers to humankind. They devised the initiation and training of the prophet priests, so that through philosophy they might nurture men's souls and cure sickness of the body with the healing arts. Man is a marvel. Here we are shown the basis for mankind's connection to the divine and immortal essence. Atum is first, the cosmos second, and man is third. The human body encloses pure mind as if it was within a walled garden, which shelters and secludes it, so that it may live in peace. Man also has this twofold nature. In body he is mortal, and in intelligence he is immortal. He speaks of how the human mind is connected to the Creator's mind, and so we share godly intelligence, although the physical mind is tempted by temptations and carnal desires and judgment, etc. And this sways us away from our divine nature. He says that the only way to connect with the limitless mind is to quieten the physical mind, the physical body, and the physical senses, so to be still in meditation. The Zodiac and Destiny. In this chapter we are shown the origin of the Zodiac. He speaks of how the planetary gods saw humankind as a type of threat with their divine intelligence and access to the earth. And so a great agreement was made that humankind would be influenced and ruled by the stars, and each humankind would be ruled by a certain zodiac. I really loved this chapter because it discusses in fine detail the explanation of the one is many, the many is one. Few can escape their fate or guard against the terrible influence of the Zodiac. For the stars are instruments of destiny, which bring all things to pass in the world of men. The universe and the particular. The human body is an earthly temple constructed by the power of the Zodiac. The forms they produce fall into 12 divisions. Nature makes the human body so that its constitution resonates with the patterns of the stars. Incarnation of the soul. Here he helps us understand soul nature on a deeper level. He speaks of how souls are genderless and helps us understand how and why our souls come into human vessel form. He says that 2 gods rule the earth under the order of the one god Atum, named the keeper of souls and the conductor of souls. The keeper is in charge of the disembodied souls, and the conductor sends down the souls, sometimes into physical incarnation. Nature works alongside these gods, creating vessels to carry the souls into reality. This chapter was all in all extremely interesting. Lively souls have lively bodies, and that each soul fits into its vessel accordingly to its individual self and tendencies. The soul has its own wrappings, which are coats made of air. Beings are surrounded with a wrapping layer of air. The clearer and thinner the layer, the more intelligent the person, the energy field that people have. So some people see this as an aura. He speaks of how going into a new vessel is a scary thing for a soul. This is interesting, seeing as so many people report near-death experiences to be a peaceful thing. Often. Not that I bloody recommend it. Although it's interesting that he noted that sometimes you could even hear shrieks and moans of souls being reincarnated back to Earth. Some wailed and moaned, some struggled against their doom. He speaks of how many souls did not want to leave their wild home and return to human bodies, or cages as they were seen. Death. Here he speaks of how death is necessary for rebirth and how it is a necessary part of evolution. He tells us how souls are judged and how they can be returned to Earth or become a body of light, as he calls it. Ignorance of the soul. In this chapter, he speaks of how the human soul can become obsessed when it is trapped in a humanly body. How it can become obsessed with material things and become possessed by a tendency for greed. Our possessions possess us. We were not born with possessions, but we acquired them later. Even the body is foreign to our true selves. He speaks of how material things can pull us away from our true nature. How great attachment can create great loss to the soul connection. Knowledge of Atum. Here we are shown the benefit of being in touch with our spiritual self. I agree with many things in this chapter. Soul is nourished by fire and air, and body by water and earth, and mind is the fifth part, which comes from the light, which comes from atom to humankind alone. Believe that for you nothing is impossible. Mind is the substance from the Creator. Rebirth. Here he speaks of how to be reborn, or how to reach enlightenment. He speaks of how humans need to purify themselves of ignorance, grief, lack of self-control, desire, injustice, greed, deceit, envy, treachery, anger, malice, and many more. He speaks of how if we live our lives filled with these tendencies of physical form, that we can bind ourselves to our physical bodies, but not in a very good way. Secret teachings. Here is kind of a summary. He tells us how we have been given these secret teachings and how we must use them going forwards. It is our duty to use information going forward, be curious, ask our own questions, and find out our own truth. The secret teachings of the ancient mystery religions were closely guarded secrets. An oath of secrecy punishable by death was taken by all initiates. In reality, however, these secrets guard themselves. They are sacred, open secrets, written in a language of nature, in the movement of the stars and in the singing of the birds. The answers are there for those who are able to look and listen with minds unclouded by others' opinions. In praise of autumn. In this final chapter, Thoth creates a hymn. I think it's like that. I think I said it right. Hymn. In praise of life and being in connection to the great mind that is accessible through mind alone, and by seeing all mind, he sees all that is one. All is one and one is all. We are living in the sum of the Akashic records. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully it won't take as long as this one to get around to doing another. Thank you.